Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Strikes Back. My name is George, and you're listening to our episode on the future of Star Wars with the boys Connor.
Hello.
And Benny.
Hello there.
Guys, Solo has dropped in the cinemas. We've seen it, and a Boba Fett film is on the way. So now it's an appropriate time for us to sit back and talk about all the films coming up in the Star Wars franchise, and also how are we feeling about it? Where do we think it should go? What are we liking? What are we not liking? So this is going to be a jam-packed episode.
There is so much Star Wars on the way.
So much. So,
It's exhausting.
guys, before we get into all of that, you know, we've seen Solo. Let's have a little bit of a debrief. You can go check out our full hour-long review with a ton of spoilers in there. But let's just recap our thoughts and how everyone's feeling a week out of seeing the film. And guys, just quickly for everyone at home, this is going to be a full spoiler episode. So, you know, Solo, we're going to be talking about spoilers. Star Wars, we're going to be talking about spoilers at length. So let's get into our Solo debrief. Connor, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I over the last week I've kind of gone up and down. I guess it's almost been 2 weeks now since I've seen it. Yeah, I've had real kind of highs and lows with this film. I think overall I've probably kind of cooled on this film a little bit. The ending particularly has really it's kind of soured my memory of it. But yeah, generally speaking, I thought it was an enjoyable film. Certainly not the best that's come out recently, but I don't think I would say it's the worst. Yeah, probably not.
So it's just, that sounds like extremely middling. Just kind of like a little bit forgettable, not bad, not good, just somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Average Star Wars film.
Yeah, I guess.
Benny?
I haven't seen it again yet, which is crazy for me.
Yeah, me neither.
I still am super into it though. I really, really enjoyed it the first time I watched it, and I am keen to see it again. I've watched a few bits here and there in the cinema at work, a few specific bits especially. And man, I just think the movie's gorgeous and fun, and I'm into it.
Yeah, I think I am pretty much exactly where I was in the review. I don't think I've soured on it at all. I think I'm actually kind of enjoying being one of the more positive people. I think a lot of people aren't enjoying this.
The reaction's been all over the map.
And that's what I kind of worry about, because there's I hate being influenced by how other people enjoy or don't enjoy films. I think people get too caught up in that. And I always try and do what you do, Ben, which is when I go into a film, I try and forget everything about that film. I try my best. And I try to give the film a chance to be good. Which is why I think I enjoyed this film as much as I did upon like my first viewing of it. I also think it it's hard to shake all the negative connotations towards this film that I had going in, because I didn't want to see a Solo film. I didn't like the director change. But yeah, I think that people are letting their kind of the community of Star Wars influence how they feel about this film way too much. I mean, the reaction to this thing, as you said, has been all over the place. You've got people that think it's the best thing that's come out since, the original trilogy, which I think is batshit insane. But you also have people that are slamming on this film that haven't even watched it. And I think the whole idea of like a boycott or that kind of shit is just, it's silly.
And especially after The Last Jedi, which was so love or hate for people, it seemed. This one, there's so many more reactions, I find, like so many more varied reactions, so many people in the middle or, just left of center or like love it. Yeah, like you said. Yeah.
I will say that there is a selection of the fandom that is becoming increasingly toxic. And look, I don't mind whether you love a film or don't like a film or anything like that, but there's a just a level of toxicity that comes about with when we're discussing these films that I really don't like, and it becomes an exercise in frustration to engage with the fandom. I think
it's very tiresome.
I feel as though that we are seeing that in the way these films are being released and the box office haul, because at the time of recording this podcast, Solo was they tipped to hit around 170, 150 million on the 4-day weekend, and now it's going to hit around 115. They're saying. So that's 35 to 50 million
well
less.
under projections.
Rogue One hit 150 million at the box office. Was it a good strategy to release Solo so close after The Last Jedi with that like divisive nature of that film and how it divided the fan base? Should they have let it kind of like settle for a minute and go for that December release, which has worked so well for them?
Yeah.
This one, they've had Deadpool and Infinity War. Like, those are heavy-hitting juggernauts. Yeah. I really don't think they've done well on the release strategy for Solo. And combined with that, the fan outrage. We've seen in comments on our review on YouTube, people being like, I'm just not going to watch this. I refuse to watch this purely on, the principle and the kind of stuff you were talking about before, Connor.
Yeah.
And it's
but I mean, I'll still watch it. Like, it's a Star Wars, and I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, but some people are choosing not to, which is that's the interesting
and we
part
watch them
of it.
for free, so we didn't need to contribute to the box office for this film at all.
Yeah.
So
this was always, I feel like, going to be the fourth, in box office of the 4 Disney Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think on paper, though, it would be ahead of Rogue One?
Sure, on paper, yeah. But that movie is a follow-up to, the third highest grossing movie of all time in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And this movie was a bit of a salvage job. So even though it's performing well under expectations, I feel like maybe I don't know, like they'd have to be a little happy, like that the movie's not just a complete disaster.
Well, evidently that's factored into why they released this Boba Fett news, because everyone's talking about Solo underperforming. They throw in this kind
but
of
I think
to
that's
redirect.
so odd for them to double down on the strategy that's obviously not worked for them. Like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get to that. But next, why don't we get into our next
I guess the next, we all were pretty reasonable on Solo. Where it sits on Rotten Tomatoes at that 70% mark, that seems pretty fitting for me. That seems like a pretty reflective score. So now, what are you guys feeling about a Solo trilogy? Because that's potentially on the cards.
Absolutely not.
Is that an absolutely not how you feel about it, or whether it will happen?
Oh, whether it'll happen. I refuse to think that they have so little finger on the pulse with how this is performed. With I think they got away with quite a bit with The Last Jedi. And I mean, I'll be the first to say I love The Last Jedi. I love that they basically were like, we're going to do something different and kind of against the grain when it comes to what most people think should happen. And quite frankly, more power to them for that. But this has gotten to a point where I think that they used a lot of goodwill with that. And I think that they should just be kind of careful about how they go ahead with Solo 2 and 3. So I don't think that it'll happen, and I definitely don't think it should happen.
I don't think there's any chance it's going to happen after this. Just the narrative about this film, it's not something they can really build a franchise out of, I don't think.
How do you think the Maul aspect factors into Solo then? Do you think that's purely an Easter egg, or do you think that's a springboard for, does this then spark the question, maybe the Star Wars stories films, Kenobi, Boba Fett, maybe they're interrelated. Maybe they're little trilogies in of themselves where we see this Darth Maul story continue. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I don't think we're getting a Solo 2. I think that is more hinting at a bigger universe that they're stringing off. That's more the Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man.
I think that will either come up in the next animated series or potentially in Kenobi.
What is interesting about the Maul thing, which I don't know how much we want to talk about that, but
let's get into it.
He's played by Ray Park again.
He's voiced by Sam Witwer.
Sam Witwer, who voiced him in the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
So that's like really officially taking something from the animated area of the universe and putting it right into the canon, which it already was canon, but that's pretty cool.
He's a beast at Star Wars trivia. He is a beast.
Darth Maul.
Yeah, Darth Maul.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
I adamantly disagree with that part of the Solo film. I think that is such a stupid idea. I think it alienates a lot of the casual fan base, and I think it panders to a very weird aspect of the informed fan base. I mean, I've never watched the animated series, so that had held so little influence or any kind of stake for me that it was bizarre.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I think Darth Maul's probably the single universally kind of liked or favored thing about the prequel trilogy. And I get on paper that it's so weird, but I don't know. It's a cool moment. I watched it again today, just that scene. And I can't help but be like, fuck
well,
You
yeah.
didn't need to
Not
turn
only-
on the lightsaber. Like that was really stupid.
It's
And
weird,
not
yeah.
only that, like not only his, inclusion in that, but that it somehow influenced a major character, like a major arc or a major decision was made in this film on the basis of that character. And we have no backstory to why that is. So I found that so utterly from left field, so completely contrary to what the rest of the film had been building up to, that it was just, it really, really made me sour on that ending.
Yeah, it was
And
a
that
bit
film
awkward.
did so
A little
much
bit
right
awkward.
that I thought that was a really disappointing way to end it.
And I think if they capitalize on it going forward and do something interesting with it, like you could come out of the first Iron Man and be like, why was Samuel L. Jackson at the end of that? That was really weird. And I know that was a post-credit scene, but I think if they actually do something interesting with the Maul character and make him like a proper figure in like a few different movies, then you could come back to this. And
But
be
I
like,
don't
okay,
think you should be able to offhandedly say, I know that that's an off-credit scene or a post-credit scene, because I think that makes a huge difference.
No, totally, yeah.
Not
Not saying it is jarring, but retrospectively it could work.
I don't think you should have to retrospectively fix films.
It's one of the first times that the Disney era Lucasfilm has kind of gone that far into canon. They've kept it quite top line, and the casual fan can keep up. This one was like, if you had only watched the films, you'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, it's like, have you seen
Isn't he
6 seasons of
Isn't he
Clone
down
Wars?
the bottom
It
of
would,
some
it would be
well?
like one of the in the Marvel universe. It would be like if there was a major character revelation or a major character decision that the whole premise of that was explained in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something. And you'd have the entire bit. Like, I'd consider myself quite an avid Marvel fan, but I don't engage in Marvels of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I don't think a lot of Marvel fans do that. And to have, if that came in, a lot of people would be like, well, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
So I think I just disagree with it on such a high level.
Yeah, I feel like I just know if I didn't know the kind of greater Maul story from the other stuff, that when he popped up in this, I would have just been like, what the fuck? That's awesome. Why? Like, how is Maul here? Like, that would get me really excited.
You know
going
what I
forward.
felt like? I felt like this is the full this is Darth Maul coming full circle and being what he was always promised to be.
Yeah.
Like he was so good in the Phantom Menace, but then he just died, and
wasn't-
everyone was longing for more. Everyone was like, that character's gone, and what they've done with Rebels,
They did
and
some
Clone
really cool
Wars,
stuff with him,
Some
yeah.
really fantastic stuff, and now to bring him into the movies and reintroduce him, for me, that was a really great moment. I get all the issues you had in terms of the
It's
timing
such a
of
pandering
it,
thing. Just leave it lie.
and the timing of it, and,
let it lie.
and the third act of Solo is probably the weakest component of the film.
And a weird place to introduce
So he's
something
in
like that.
there,
Yeah.
but for me, it was just such a great kind of like 360 moment.
I think what they were trying to do was the Vader scene out of Rogue
for
One.
sure.
Did you play The Force Unleashed at all?
I played I definitely
Yeah,
played the first
I
one.
think so.
I don't
Fun
think.
fact, because Sam Witwer is the Star Killer. He's the main character in
Force
that.
Unleashed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guy
Was
with
that
the
on GameCube?
crazy chin, and it was on like everything back in the day.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
played it on Xbox.
And
or
then it was
something.
It's like when
Jedi
you played.
Academy was one of them, the third one.
No, it's
No?
the one where you play as Darth Vader's secret apprentice, Star Killer.
Oh.
When
There's
he's, like,
only
trying to
2 of them,
take-
I
Yeah,
believe,
no, I
right?
didn't play that one. That was
Fun
one
little
was
game.
There's
cool.
only 2. Yeah,
Oh,
they're really
really
cool.
cool.
But no, that's just fun that Sam Witwer, who plays Darth Maul,
Yeah.
who voices Darth Maul,
He's a really cool guy.
So
He's
I'm
awesome,
a big
yeah.
fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
he's ridiculously good looking. It's
yeah.
very
And
strange.
he's like buff.
Yeah.
And he's got a great manly
let's-
voice.
All right, calm down. Let's
Takes
move
my breath
on.
away.
I think that
So yeah.
Solo Trilogy, not going to happen. I don't think any of us want it to happen. The whole connection from that might be in the Boba Fett and
Yeah.
Kenobi films.
I'd
So
happily
now
watch.
do you start doing what Marvel have done in, say, Thor Ragnarok, where you have Thor and Hulk? Do you do a Boba Fett film where Han Solo is a decent part?
I'm around
with
that.
Lando coming in as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, do
okay.
we start?
Yeah, we're all around,
I'm around
things
it,
now.
yeah.
Like,
'Cause I
why
think you
should they
could
all be on one
You
character?
could set these stories in this era in between the trilogies, And you could have these characters keep popping in and
Yeah.
out of different ones. Like you could do it instead of doing a Solo 2, you do Lando, and
Yeah.
Solo can be like as big a part of that as Lando was of this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'd be cool with that because I think they've done a good
Because
job.
why
casting
should
all
they
these
be all
characters.
separate from each other?
Well, because all right, so there's a couple things that I staunchly disagree with that aspect of it. Lando, Boba Fett, Darth Maul, these are all supplementary characters in these films. And
That's why you do a spin-off.
If there's one thing we know that is at the very best a risk, is that you don't take supplementary characters that seem interesting and give them their own movie.
But they'd all be ensemble pieces still. They would just have slightly different focuses.
But the whole aspect, or one of the major aspects of Marvel that's worked, is that they each have their standalone introduction film, and then when you bring them together, you don't have to build up individual characters. So I
think we've got enough groundwork with, say, Ewan McGregor's Kenobi. Ewan McGregor's Kenobi, we continue the Darth Maul story from this. It's on Tatooine. Han Solo, they talked about Han Solo and Jabba the Hutt and going to Tatooine at the end of Solo. Maybe he goes to Tatooine and we see like these linkages. And that to me sounds really interesting and fun.
I don't want that to happen.
Like imagine if Kenobi, Solo, and Boba Fett, that's a little trilogy.
God, no.
That'd be cool.
God, no. Those are like the...
You don't like that idea at all?
To be honest, I just hate
idea.
Boba Fett. Like the fact that he's even in contention to get his own film infuriates me, which actually brings us to the next topic about the Boba Fett film that's been announced.
Yep.
That infuriates me on a level that I cannot describe.
So
It's such a fuck you to...
There's some anger problems lately, mate.
Seriously.
Well, I mean, Boba Fett is
and I've just called like a section of the Star Wars fan base toxic, and here I am being like about as toxic as you can get.
I demand it be this way.
Yeah.
Boba Fett is the
Entitled.
highest selling figurine.
Yep.
And that's why this film has been made.
That's because they discontinued him and he cost $10,000 to buy.
But once again, it feels similar to Solo, where it's like we've crunched the numbers, and Boba Fett he's a top seller. So let's do a film, and let's sell bucket loads of Boba Fett figurines and different colors and some other Mandalorian outfits.
I don't think it's a good idea intrinsically, but I do like this corner of the Star Wars universe. I'd like to see more of it, like some just dirty Coruscant movie about bounty hunters. Like I'm into that.
Yeah, that's when I feel Clone Wars was at its best, when it was exploring that stuff. What about James Mangold being involved on this Boba Fett film? How do you guys feel about that? Does that, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Does that make this
I think we can safely
project
say
more
it's probably
interesting?
a good thing. Like there's far worse directors that they could have picked for this.
Yeah, I actually, in a lot of ways, like the Wolverine more than Logan, and I think that would be more of a comparison point for what he'd be trying to do with this. More of a
Film by committee.
Well, yeah, just more of a franchise film.
Yes.
Not the
Writer,
crazy
director,
whatever
auteur,
Logan was.
kind of what Logan was. Well, Logan was James Mangold's film.
intense, yeah. Whereas this would be more servicing a functioning franchise.
And Lucasfilm is very heavy-handed with the way they produce films.
Clearly.
Yeah, and for the most part, I loved what he did with the Wolverine. I think that's a great character movie. And
I really got to
it's
watch
just a
that.
cool plot. I fucking love it. The director's cut is even better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're selling it.
Yep.
So you think good choice?
Not a bad choice. No, he wouldn't be my choice, but I have a very different idea of what a Boba Fett movie should be, obviously.
Yeah. Your idea is the Taika Waititi
Directing Jermaine Clement as Boba Fett, just fucking up through the universe.
And what about taking a little bit of the Robot Chicken influence? Boba Fett in Robot Chicken. I don't know if you guys watched the Star Wars specials in that, but they're just so funny. And Boba Fett, he's an incredibly funny character in that.
I think it's his popularity. I think is stupid because he's useless.
It's just based on the look.
Yeah.
Essentially,
It's aesthetics.
It's a cool looking toy, and that has spurned on this inexplicable love for the character.
Yeah.
Which in a lot of ways means it's a blank slate that they could do anything with. So it's potentially promising.
I guess.
He's going to be so badass, and he has done not many badass things in the
And
original
that's my problem. They're
trilogy.
trying to like reverse engineer this character, and I just think that that's so silly.
It's kind of like if you logically watch Rogue One and see Darth Vader and the way he wields the lightsaber at the end versus him versus Obi-Wan. You know that you gotta go with it. You know, you can't think about it too much.
That's
just, you know, different times, different eras of filmmaking. So I guess overall, Boba Fett film for us, not feeling too good about it.
Yeah, but having said that, I was super negative towards Solo. Like, I didn't want to see that. And while I'm still of the opinion that it shouldn't have been made, now that it has been made, I went and watched it and I enjoyed it. So
I think a bounty hunter film's the way to do it. We see Bosk, we see IG-88, you know,
see Dengar.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see the underbelly. More so than we saw in Solo. I think we can go more underbelly than that. Okay.
Do we try and make Boba Fett the good guy in this?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Would he be the actual that's protagonist, or would he be a figure in the film?
Or do you do like a Judge Dredd kind of thing where he doesn't take off his helmet?
Yeah.
You know, there's multiple ways you can go about it. I think he's definitely got to be Maori. He's got to be cast.
Well, if he doesn't take off his helmet, then it doesn't really matter, does it?
The accent would be great.
And you got to keep the accent, I feel. It really depends when you're going to set this. You know, do you go, I would like to see it set in prequel era. I'm sick of this in between 3 and 4. Solo's set there, Rogue One's set there. I'm over it. And Kenobi would be set there as well. I'm over that era. I want to see. Let's see something post Jedi.
But if we're talking about building, like you've just
3.
talked about how good it would be to build a universe around Solo.
Yes,
and
I'm completely contradicting myself.
Yeah, so I mean, like, stick to one and fucking stick to your guns. Yeah, look, I am perfectly honest. I would rather not see this at all. I'm not saying that I wouldn't like to see stuff around the Star Wars universe, and I think we've been clear. Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's happening that I would like to see. But I think that they need to leave this nostalgia alone. I think that it's just not worth getting into. And I think it's just muddying the waters. Hell, I would even have someone go back to Knights of the Old Republic, or, you know, go forward however many years back.
We'll talk about that soon.
Anyways, let's move on.
So, I guess the final of these Star Wars stories that we've definitely got in the pipeline is the Kenobi film. You know, that is definitely coming. How are you guys feeling about that?
So do we have, like, it's Ewan McGregor?
Yes.
Okay, good. My only real kind of anticipation, or like my actual wanting to see this, comes from Ewan McGregor. And I think that's kind of...
Hello there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's how a lot of the fan base feels. Really, when I look back, one of the only things that I really genuinely enjoyed out of the prequels was Ewan McGregor. So I don't know that that's enough to pull off an entire movie. I don't know that there's enough to work with in between 3 and 4.
He's such a meme now. I feel like they'd have to play off that angle.
They would have to.
Like, the whole movie would have to be about higher ground somehow.
Yeah. And hello there, yeah. I don't know if there's enough to go. Like, he's obviously... Yeah, I don't know.
We'd presumably be talking about the time in between episodes
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Yeah.
And yeah,
you said it purely on Tatooine.
Is he just a hermit for that time?
Yeah.
That would
or
be
how he
kinda
becomes
cool.
more of a hermit.
We've never seen a Star Wars film that's set on one planet exclusively. That might be an interesting way to go.
Yeah. You could easily have half the fan base just real pissed off by the fact that it's only set on one planet.
But British director Stephen Daldry is attached to this. He did The Crown. So a bit of an interesting choice, not kind of like somebody with... it seems like Lucasfilm are going for more established directors now, as opposed to going with, you know, the Gareth Edwards, the Lord and Millers, the young spunky directors. They're going for more seasoned guys who have a bit more of a filmography under their belt.
Journeyman.
I think this would be a really, if any, this would be a really good time to bring back some badass lightsaber battles.
Well,
if any. Because I mean, like...
Old Ben Kenobi has no compunction about slicing arms off in cantinas.
Yeah.
So.
I love the lightsaber scene in The Last Jedi.
Well, I was going to say, like, we got a really cool fight scene, but it wasn't necessarily what a lot of people, you know, think of when they say a lightsaber battle.
So it was
and a lot
lightsaber
of people,
on lightsabers.
Yeah, and a lot of people have criticized, like, technically the end lightsaber battle of The Last Jedi wasn't a lightsaber battle because they never actually connected. Fair enough. So I think that it's a really good opportunity, either in Episode 9 or in this Kenobi one, to just really bring back some, Episode 3 style lightsaber battles.
So it'd have to be Maul, presumably. I mean, who else would he be fighting?
Cool.
I mean, yeah, have a rematch between those two, which I think that they've done in the animated series, haven't they? So
Rebels.
I mean, I suppose that'd be
dies
cool.
on Tatooine
In 3 seconds flat.
Really?
Yeah, there's
He cut him in half again?
there's one strike. He does actually, yeah.
Yes.
But this way, he's smart about it.
Does he say something about try and come back from that?
You bitch.
Yeah.
So what are you
Goodbye
guys?
there.
What are you guys more excited for, Boba Fett or Kenobi?
Neither.
No, well, I guess if I had to choose one, it'd definitely be
Avengers 4.
Yeah, it would definitely be Kenobi for the reasons that I've just stated. That I think that I like Ewan McGregor.
Kenobi?
Yeah,
But that's not a question. Of course, it's going to be Kenobi.
well, no, I feel like
No, he's-
Boba Fett has more potential. I don't think they're going to take it in that interesting a direction, though. So Kenobi, I guess.
Kenobi.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kenobi as well.
But that's that's the lesser of two evils for me.
Mm.
A Star Wars story. So, obviously, we have also got Episode 9 coming up. JJ's taken over the helm. I'm excited to see how that all wraps up. And I'm also curious to see what they do in terms of, do they make it feel very finite, or do they leave it open to make it feel like there is going to be an episode 10, 11, 12? I'm really curious to see what direction they take with the ending of this.
Look,
Because I would love it to be a very close-ended chapter.
Me
and
too.
them to start exploring other stuff.
Kill
too.
everyone.
I think that they should end the episodes. Like I said, I have no problem with them doing Star Wars stories or spin-offs or anything like that in terms of, all the announced films and TV shows or whatever it is that's going to come out. What I do have a problem with is them kind of diluting the area that's already been through. So I think that they should finish off the episodes, have 9 feel very closed off. This is how the Skywalkers, or this is how they won, and then focus on other areas of the universe, but just leave that kind of alone as a major storyline.
I'm in a weird position with this franchise. I don't feel like I've ever been in that I loved The Last Jedi so much and I have no interest in seeing a sequel to it whatsoever.
Well, because you're worried that they're going to nerf it down.
No, it's not, at this point it's not even worried. I'm just not interested. Luke Skywalker's dead. Han Solo's dead. Carrie Fisher is dead.
It's kind of like The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens are a little two-hander.
Yeah.
And Episode 9 is going to be a few years later, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be 5 years later or something. It feels...
Is that
you could
your
kind of
just
leave it at
general
that.
feeling, or is that what's
I
been
think that's
announced?
my general feeling.
You think it is, or
I
have you
think it
read
is.
anything concrete saying that it's going to be 5 years later?
Yeah.
Search your
I feel like
feelings
I
first.
have to
No,
just
be true.
it's like pulling teeth
No.
with George in terms of where he gets his information from.
Yeah. I don't even know where I get my information from.
He just knows it.
Yeah. It just comes
Which
to
is
me in
why,
the middle of the
Ben,
night.
you and me will
5
be
years!
well fed in the future.
Yeah. The fact that George. Hi, George.
Hey.
The fact that J.J. Abrams is coming back onto this, it just turns me off it so much.
But you didn't like Force Awakens.
No. Not really. I don't hate it, but
See,
yeah.
I really like Force Awakens.
Compared to Last Jedi, hell no.
I like them
So I
as
feel
a
like
two
it's-
little
I feel like it's gonna be a step
little
backwards.
duo.
Like
step
I'm almost
up.
at the point where I'm worried that I would like Last Jedi less after watching Episode 9, so maybe I don't want to see it at all.
Yeah. I mean, that would kind of feel appropriate. Everyone talks about Empire being, the best out of the 3 type thing. So maybe that's what will happen with this trilogy. Number 2 will be the best out of them all.
Isn't it crazy how out of all the films we've had, so we've had Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rogue One, Solo, and let's include Episode 9 in here, 3 of them, so 60%, have had directors come on and Lucasfilm fire them. So we had that in Rogue One.
Are you going to count Trevorrow?
Trevor, for sure, he had drafts. He had
Okay.
multiple drafts
Yeah.
of the script.
At least one of those, I think, is well deserved.
Which one's that?
Trevorrow.
Trevor, yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And Chuck Boba Fett in there, that's another one too.
Yeah, Chuck Boba Fett. Yeah,
I
for sure.
suppose. Yeah.
For sure.
Mm.
That
God, you must be just so fucking nervous signing on as a director with Star Wars right now. Just be like, if you were the first director, be like, you know what? Maybe I'll wait until the second round of directors comes in. Call me then.
So
Kathleen Kennedy with a little trigger finger.
I think Episode 9 close ended, and I hope JJ does a great job with it. You know, I think he did a fantastic job with The Last Jedi. He had a monumental task ahead of him, and he did a really good job.
I think my general feeling with JJ is that he created a film that on like if I look at that film as a whole, I'm really pleased with it. I thought that it didn't. I can't remember like a time in that film where I was like, "Ooh, I'm really disinterested in this," or "I don't like it," or anything like that. I thought that it was a really consistent film with the way that it entertained me. What I do feel about Rian Johnson is that he took more risks. He took it in more interesting directions. And he did more with the property, but that also meant that some of those risks didn't pay off as much. And the Canto Bight scene is a perfect example. It's the biggest criticism of that film, I think, that anyone really has.
So weak.
And so I don't necessarily think that a consistent and good film for number 9 is a bad thing. To wrap it all up.
I think that's a good segue into the next film that's coming out, which is the Rian Johnson trilogy. Or, I mean, not the next film, but the next trilogy, or one of the trilogies that's been announced, or whatever. So Rian Johnson didn't go ahead and come on board for Episode 9, but he's been given a chance to do his own trilogy. Now, I believe out of the 3 films, he's going to kind of do the story arc for all 3, but at this stage, he's only directing the first one.
Yeah.
So the plan is to maybe get a couple other guys on for the other 2. I'm really excited to see where this goes, and supposedly this is going to be in a completely different timeline.
I'm so more into this than anything else happening.
Yeah.
So do we have any... He says it's not going to be based on any existing property, right?
Yes. Yep.
So this is completely different.
Fresh.
So is this going to include Jedis? Is this going to include the Force? Is it like, what's the connection to the rest of the Star Wars universe?
I think Rian Johnson had a really good grip on that and showed things about the Force in The Last Jedi that we've never seen before. Like, classic example is, you know, when you see that montage of the island and like the duality, you know, you see the different components, the life, the death, all these different things. Like, I'd never seen a sequence like that in Star Wars. And it felt like the Force was a very integral part of that story. So I think that'll carry through to this. He has that spiritual aspect to these films. So I think that'll carry through. And I hope they do. I hope he goes and this is Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, we're all thinking KOTOR.
I really
But I thought we were...
that.
He said that this is not going to be around property that's already...
But it wouldn't necessarily
existing.
be an adaptation. It would just be set in that time period and maybe tell us something about the original Sith War or something that we've never seen.
Or at least take the KOTOR idea and just kind of reappropriate it in some way.
When my impression was that anything that's kind of existed in or out of Star Wars canon is going to be not something that he touches. So I have a feeling that this will have nothing to do with Jedi, nothing to do with Sith, might take some integral aspects of the universe and shift that over and make a trilogy about that. But my impression was that this wasn't going to touch any existing kind of...
Going to be set in the distant
network.
future in a galaxy far away from Coruscant. It's going to be set here. And
Yeah.
it's have nothing to do with any Star
On
Wars
Earth.
stuff whatsoever.
Do you reckon it could be 1,000 years in the future? You know, because KOTOR is 1,000 years in the past? Maybe something like that.
Not even time. I think it might even be during the same time, but we're talking about a really, like, a big universe. It might be the same time, but on a planet where people have never heard of the Jedi.
Do you have anything you'd like to see in particular? Him tackle?
No. No. Like, I mean, personally, I would like to see Knights of the Old Republic. I think there's some really cool stuff there. I love going back in time. Like, I love seeing, like, I would love to see where the Jedi got their start. I would love to see the Sith Wars. I would love to see that kind of stuff. I'm really interested in.
Darth Bane, Darth Revan.
Yeah.
Really
So, I mean, like,
characters.
there's a lot of stuff that I would like to see. But my impression was that he was going to shy away from that. I have a feeling that he's going to want to create something new, which means that there's endless possibility, but it also means that there's no source material for him to draw on.
Yeah, but I'm excited him to get back in the Star Wars universe and piss some more people off, and
Hell yeah.
hopefully Lucasfilm stick to their guns and keep him on board, because they were so happy with The Last Jedi, and they talked about it so much in the marketing leading up, and the film we got, the fan base was there was so much backlash. I wonder if they'll change their tune.
I feel like the Star Wars and like Kathleen Kennedy and Disney and all that I get such mixed signals. Because they put out something like The Last Jedi, which is so contrary to what so much of the fan base wanted. And it just feels like, oh, hell yeah. Like, you guys are doing, what you want to do. You want to make a good film, an original film, pretty much doing what the original trilogy did, which was go against convention. People didn't know they wanted Star Wars until they got it. So there's that aspect of it, and then there's like the Solo and the Boba Fett and the Kenobi side, which is just like this endless stream of nostalgic, cash grab bullshit. And I'm like,
I think the Star Wars stories are going to be used for the pandering, fan servicey stuff, but the mainline trilogy.
I also wonder whether it seems to be that no matter what they do, half the fan base is so maybe they're geniuses. Fuck it. Maybe they're like, we're going to piss off half the fan base no matter what. So here, this half enjoy this movie, and this half enjoy this movie.
Yeah, quite possibly. So along with that whole trilogy, we've got another film trilogy from the Game of Thrones creators, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. So these guys have obviously had a meteoric rise and success in the TV world with Game of Thrones, but will that translate to films is one question I have. And do you think having another whole trilogy, are we just getting too much Star Wars here right now?
It depends on when they release it, but this
looks like they're going to a 2-a-year model. That's probably what they're going to be scaling up to in the 2020.
I don't know if we're ever going to get that, honestly, after looking how Solo is going. I feel like a lot of these projects are going to get canned.
It could be very true. Could be right.
I could be very true.
Could be very true, right?
I mean, a lot of people said this about the Marvel Universe, that people are going to get fatigued, that, oh God, 2 superhero films a year? That's ridiculous. And, people will be over it in a couple of years. And this is now the largest franchise in the world, bar none. So the fuck do we know?
Yeah.
Having said that, I do genuinely think that 2 a year will give people fatigue. One of the great things about Star Wars is the grandeur, it's the size, it's the magnificence of it, and
Episode 3 ending felt like that was it. We were never getting a Star Wars movie again. That's how it felt. That's how special Star Wars used to feel.
Big, yeah.
And now it's just like doof, 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 doof.
And I don't even
Movies
mind
coming out of our fucking ears.
Yeah, I don't even mind the 1 a year model, sort of. I think that they've kind of diluted the market a little bit. But as long as they're kind of small. So like one of the things I think Solo did really well up until the end was make the universe seem, or at least the story feel contained. It was his own little thing. The fate of the galaxy wasn't resting upon this little heist, and I really enjoyed that. It felt like it wasn't going to dilute the Star Wars grandeur. And I said it in our review. I liked that film most when it was least like a Star Wars film. If they were just kind of sprinkling those in between, I think I'd be fine with it. But it does seem as though they're trying to connect a little bit too much and make it all part of this shared universe, and I'm just a little bit off it. It feels like they're trying to be Marvel.
So D.B. Weiss has pretty much only done Game of Thrones, and David Benioff wrote X-Men Origins Wolverine. So
yay! Why did you say that?
So yeah, I don't know. I didn't know much about them outside of like Game of Thrones or whatever.
GOT.
I don't know how they got this. It seems like they would be more suited for a TV show, which
I think so.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to say. It's hard to say whether they're going to try and bring a little bit of that. See, more so than the Rian Johnson. I think these guys are suited to Knights of the Old Republic because that feels a little bit more political. It seems like a little bit more. It feels like the chance to do another prequels, because the prequels aspired to be political and kind of. Yeah, I mean,
just didn't have
malevolent.
Just
moves
didn't quite
in the dark.
Get the nuance there.
Yeah, It was genuinely a good. And I mean,
But I think that I feel as though that is something that I missed from The Force Awakens. Like
Definitely.
I wanted more politics, so I'm open for more politics. You know, George Lucas didn't nail it,
and that's my point. Like
yeah,
I think that
these
they
guys,
can.
you're very right. If
It was
they do
one of
it
the
well,
things that I really, really was disappointed with the prequels. Not necessarily that they tried, but that they failed so
the
hardly.
execution was bad.
Yeah, I mean, like there was some interesting stuff in like if you take the plot points of the prequels, that's a really cool story. I would want to see that story played out really well. And I think that, you know, if you got some of the directors that are attached now and just did the prequels, like, oh god, that'd be cool.
Sheev Palpatine, a Star Wars story.
Sheev in college.
Let's just calm down here.
Sheev, a Star Wars story.
Him and
But,
Yoda hanging out.
Yeah, these guys, with their treatment of Game of Thrones and their experience on that kind of project, could attack that sort of political and kind of that type of property. And I think that that'd be really cool.
I don't think this trilogy is ever going to happen.
Highly likely that it's not.
Could be very right.
So I guess before we kind of move on, I know that we've been harping on Solo. How much damage do you think Solo has done to the overall franchise?
I think we're going to have to see the box office haul, and then we're really going to get to know. So I think by June, you know, mid to late June, we'll have a good indication on how was Solo. How did it perform, and did people did it respond to the Star Wars fan base?
If this makes under
or the other way around, did the Star Wars fan base
600 or even under 500? So let's say it makes under 500.
I think that's a massive blow.
If it makes under 500, it's a disaster.
And people, you know,
what do you think is
the box
how
office?
Do you think that affects the future?
So they're saying the budget for that film to make production cost was $250 million
because they made 2 movies.
I think that's a load of horse shit. I reckon it's more close to around 300 to 350. Ron Howard reshot 70% of that film.
Yeah,
that's recreating sets. That's doing this. That's doing that. It's a massive. That's a whole film, almost redoing a whole other film. So that Solo, you know, it was never with that decision. It was never going to make a lot of money, but you know, now to not even hit, if it hits 500, that's bad news, man.
Well, all right, let's even say like let's say it just makes back its money. Like let's say like we're talking like 600 million or even 70. Let's say it makes $700 million. How do you think that affects the future of the Star Wars franchise?
I think there's
we're
definitely
gonna start seeing canceled projects, and
I think they're definitely going to be post Boba Fett. There'll be no more Star Wars stories. I think we're going to see more new content in new areas, and they'll kind of spend the next era experimenting with these 2 trilogies and seeing do people just want to see new stuff that isn't attached to the old trilogy? Is that where we need to go?
I don't know.
So what you're saying is this might be the best thing to happen to the Star Wars franchise yet. If this drives them away from the nostalgia bullshit, then I am all for this film failing.
I don't think
it
would do that. I think they would go scurrying back to the Skywalker name if this movie doesn't do well enough. I think they'd be like less experimental somehow.
You could be, yeah. It could have a twofold effect. So I want to talk about now. So that's kind of like all the films coming up. That's a lot of different films. So let's talk about what we want to see. You know, if we were Kathleen Kennedy, if we were at the top, what movies do you guys want to see in the Star Wars franchise?
I think we've been pretty clear. It's Knights of the Old Republic is what we'd like to see. I love going back into the history of the Jedi and like the history of that world. I think it's so cool. I like going back into that archaic kind of like time, or the feeling like, yeah, hell, like they could, you know, it's a bit of, I don't know if this would actually make a good film, but there's that, I think it's Knights of the Old Republic, the animated trailer with the twins.
Oh yeah,
Is that Knights of the Old Republic, or is that for some other game?
Yeah, that was another game.
Whatever that was.
That was a great sequence.
That aesthetic, that kind of feel, I think I would love to see that, you know, realized in a film. So yeah, I'm 100% down for doing something that's really removed from the Skywalkers. They'd almost certainly like throw in some kind of comment about, you know, how the Skywalker name got started or some shit like that, and whatever. But yeah, I think that's what I want to see. something that's very far away from what we currently have. It's pretty much a wipe and do again type thing.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love the idea that they'd
that
have
as well.
something to draw on.
No baggage.
Yeah.
Keep it fresh.
They're not beholden. Like they've got 1,000 years to like correct whatever they need to do. They can do whatever they need to do. Just make a good trilogy.
How about you, Benny?
It's lame, but I'd totally watch a Force Unleashed movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I like that story. I like that era. I love Sam Witwer. And I really like the prequel era. I would love to see some good movies set
same.
around that time.
Same.
Like I'd be really into that.
I would love to see that.
Like I'd like to see Coruscant realized in like not a horrible shitty green screen world.
Do some like Republic Commando thing. That could be cool.
Fuck, that'd be wicked. Yeah. Do something with the clone troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
feel like the series has done that, hasn't they? Isn't that
Yeah,
what
really successfully.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see some of the stuff they tackled in the Clone Wars series.
See, I think that kind of stuff is really well suited to the animated series. It's like it's not over bloating the movie universe with stuff. It's stuff that you'd kind of like to see, but if you don't, it's not going to affect how you see the Star Wars universe. So I think that's really well suited to that. I don't think it should directly affect characters' motivations in the movies.
Give me a Mace Windu movie. Redeem that character. He does nothing in those movies.
Mace.
I would love to see Mace a Star Wars.
But
story.
an actual movie?
Mace.
But see, this is what we've just been talking about, like just trying to redeem shitty characters or
I want to see a Qui-Gon movie.
yeah, like fuck
Hey.
that.
Qui-Gon.
I love the
Boo's a
different
Star Wars
mediums. I love
story.
going
Yeah.
novels. Like when I was a kid, I used to love reading those. There was a series of novels that was basically Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. And
You
I used
nerd.
to eat those up. They were great. But I think that's great in book form. I think that it's great to have, different properties in that universe complement the films.
Mm.
I do not think that's where you just chuck more films in.
Yeah, don't overexpose it too much in the
Yeah.
cinema.
And it gives the fans like a level of inclusion that they feel appropriate for. Like, if you want to get into the TV series, go for the TV series. If you want to get into the books, go for the books. And you can kind of immerse yourself in a number of different ways. But I think it just becomes bloated if you have too many films in there.
Locking it in, baby. I want a Mace Windu movie.
Fuck you.
Okay, call me crazy. I watched Beyond
Crazy.
the Trailer. It's another YouTube channel out there. I think Grace Rudolph. And she pitched an idea. And the idea is recasting the original three. So obviously we've got Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo.
Mm.
We got Sebastian Stan as Luke Skywalker. We've all seen the memes about how similar those guys.
Mm.
Recast Princess Leia. How do you guys feel about that idea of having that original three back on screen and going on some more adventures with them?
When? How? Like, you couldn't cast an old-ass Sebastian Stan to act against super young Alden Ehrenreich's Han Solo.
That makes no
Sebastian
sense.
Stan looks young.
He's
Ooh.
old, though.
He looks young. He looks
He's
like a
not-
spring
he doesn't
chicken.
look that
He's older
young.
than Mark Hamill ever was in his movies.
He's a spring chicken.
I think you need to go back and
Did you watch I,
watch.
Tonya when he was playing like a 16-year-old? It did not
I had
work.
no idea that was Sebastian Stan. It's
Um,
like for 3 days after the film. I was like, who did Sebastian Stan play
Who's
in
that dashing young old man playing a teenager?
yeah,
Do you think
look,
that's a
no.
terrible
Yes, I
idea?
think that's a
No,
terrible
I
idea.
would happily watch some other stories with those
I mean,
characters.
we've seen there's so many comics with them going on different adventures
Yeah,
in
yeah.
between. I would actually really love to see that.
I'd love to see. I don't know.
Like recapture that original trilogy because it is the original trilogy.
I don't think you could do anything with Alden Ehrenreich's
This is the
Han.
danger of nostalgia. It's you want to revisit shit that you enjoyed 30 years ago or whenever it is that you first saw it.
Of course.
And that's
course.
not what good films are made out of. Like, it's such a bad idea.
But
Solo
you can make
literally got by on the skin of its teeth.
You can make a good film out of anything, and I really loved Solo. So I could say, so yes, we've said several times, I don't think it's a good
people
idea.
that make
but
films off nostalgia get lazy. You can make a film out of anything good, probably, but people that are trading off nostalgia don't tend to not reach for as high a bar.
we're talking about dream projects here, though. So
Yeah, I guess. But I think you need to be realistic in what you want.
not in dream projects, no. It's a dream.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would just love to see if they could make that work.
Look, I'm scared to put that out in the ether because I just feel like it's going to come back and be like, you know what? That is a good idea. And then suddenly it's a movie and you're like, shit.
Yeah, because Alden is Han Solo now, for all intents and purposes. So, you know, let's...
He's Disney's
where
Han
do we
Solo.
go? Where do we go from here?
You never redress that character again, ever.
Put him in the
It's
vault.
real simple.
Put him
It's
in the
really
vault.
simple. Like it's not a complicated idea. You've done the movie, you've done the origin story. It was a dumb idea. You got by on the skin of your teeth. Just let it lie.
I was kind of hoping there'd be a post-credit scene on Solo that shows him falling off the catwalk in Force Awakens and then like landing somewhere soft and like getting shot off the planet and he's still alive. I'm like, oh my God, Han Solo's coming back, baby. And then you can just have old Ehrenreich in old man makeup, just wearing a Harrison Ford mask.
It's like Prometheus, Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
That
You
was
look
fun.
like you're ready for bed, George.
I am so ready. I'm also kind of ready for Star Wars to go to bed in a lot of ways.
Damn.
You know, we've got so much on the way and so much that I'm not looking forward to.
It's tiresome.
I feel like Star Wars has so much opportunity and scope for so many amazing projects, stories to tell, things to see, and this slate of films that we have upcoming seems kind of very vanilla and underwhelming.
I feel like we're getting too stuck in the Skywalker verse. I love the 9, 10, 11 suite. But yeah, I think the Star Wars story should be elsewhere. Yeah.
Bring on Solo 2 and 3.
Having said that, because I think I've been incredibly negative today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think we've all been negative.
Having said that, whatever comes out, I will watch it and I will give it a chance because I think if Solo has proved anything, it's that
For sure.
you can come into something with such a negative idea, but a good movie is a good movie. And I think that I still like Star Wars. I get excited when I talk about Star Wars, and I think the reason that so many people are so passionate about it is the same reason. And I don't think you're ever going to please everyone.
Yeah.
People
love it.
Yeah, and I as long as there's still Star Wars around, like I think that I'll be watching it.
Well, we'll be here for episode 9, won't we, Benny?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you watch it, Clockwork Orange style.
Well, guys, thanks for listening to this episode. You can go check out our Solo review when we get into all the nitty gritty of that film, and we'll be back next week for the weekly movie show. Plenty of other fun stuff, won't we, Connor?
Yes, we will.
And we'll see you next time, Benny.
See ya.
And we'll see you next time, everyone else. Goodbye. And I'm going to leave the bloopers in. So, yeah. Get ready for that. Hang around for that. Guys, this week we got an announcement that Boba Fett is coming. We've just seen Solo in the cinemas, and now it's an appropriate time to see all the films that are coming up in the Star Wars universe. Fuck me.
Was that a tough one there for you, George?
Let's just go again. Actually, I think we should go again on that. I think I should go again on all of that.
Well, you've pretty much made it so we have to now.
You're a bit paranoid, George.
That sucked.
Wrong.
Haven't done a re-intro for a while. It's a good sign. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George, and you're listening to our episode, all the upcoming films. Fuckity.
Do you want to do it again, or should we just keep going?
Take 4.
Let's go again.